Have you ever met someone who stays almost frighteningly calm even when everything around them is falling apart? Bad news? They stay composed. Drama? They keep their distance. A big argument? They simply stand on the sidelines and watch. At first glance, you might think they're emotionless or even arrogant and hard to approach. That's what most people assume, but the truth is the complete opposite. That quietness isn't emptiness. It's a layer of armor so thick that nothing can pierce it. The reason they don't panic isn't because they don't feel fear. It's because they've already faced these worst-case scenarios hundreds of times in the past. When someone has been through too much, their brain starts to get reprogrammed. They no longer react on pure instinct. They analyze. They see through lies before the other person even opens their mouth. What you call cold or emotionless is actually a very sophisticated survival mechanism. In this video, we're going to explore 10 psychological signs that someone has been through far too much in life. And chances are, you might recognize a few of these signs in yourself. Sign 1. Empathy. Have you ever noticed that people who have endured a lot of pain often develop an emotional radar that's more sensitive than usual? Imagine this. You're sitting at a loud dinner party. People are laughing, clinking glasses, music thumping in the background. You feel lonely and sad because of something personal, but you try to put on a happy mask. You smile, you nod, you pretend you're fine. Most people will believe that smile. They'll pass right by you. But someone who has been through real pain won't. They'll be the only person in the room who walks over, lowers their voice, and asks, "Hey, are you actually okay?" They notice the tiny shift in your tone that everyone else misses. They see the way your eyes drop when no one's paying attention. They hear the strange quietness in you between the jokes. Why can they do that? It's not because they have some kind of superpower. It's because they know exactly what that unspoken pain feels like. They've been there. They've been the person sitting in a crowd, screaming in silence while no one hears. That lonely experience carved a lesson deep into their mind. I won't let someone else feel as abandoned as I once did. The pain from their past has sharpened their heart, making it softer and more sensitive. They become empathetic not because they learned it from a book, but because they learned it through their own scars. And that empathy often leads them to the next very distinctive behavior. Sign 2. They always try to keep everyone around them okay. Don't just think of it as them being helpful. Picture a situation like this. You're at a small get-together with friends. At first, everything is fun. People are laughing and chatting. Then, two people in the group start to disagree. Their voices slowly get louder. The room suddenly feels tense, and everyone else starts avoiding the situation. And then, there's always one person who steps into that mess. Not the most powerful person in the room, but the one calm enough to speak up. "Hey, let's all take a breath for a second. We don't need to make this so intense." They gently change the subject, soften the mood, and a few minutes later, everything feels normal again, like nothing ever happened. In families, when conflict appears, they're often the one sitting quietly and listening without complaining. At work, they quietly take on the difficult tasks so the team doesn't start blaming each other. They're like a sponge, absorbing the tension around them so everyone else can feel a little lighter. Psychology calls this the savior complex. But for people who have been hurt in the past, it's often connected to a survival response called fawning. Their brain once learned a painful lesson. Conflict means danger. And the safest way to survive is to keep everyone else calm. But here's the ironic part. They hold the umbrella for the whole world while letting themselves get soaked. They're always the one asking, "Are you okay?" But very rarely does anyone ask them the same question. And even when someone does ask, their usual answer is still the same. "It's okay, I'm fine." Deep down, constantly taking care of others becomes an unconscious way to comfort themselves. They hope that if the world around them stays peaceful, if everyone else is happy, then maybe, just maybe, they'll feel a little safer too. But that kind of safety is fragile. Because how can you truly feel at peace when every day you're walking on eggshells, afraid of upsetting someone else? That constant sense of unease pushes their nervous system into a state of continuous alert. This brings us to sign number 3, hypervigilance. When someone has lived in an unstable environment for too long, like growing up in a violent home, surviving a war, or escaping a long-term toxic relationship, their brain can no longer switch off survival mode. Watch them when they go to a restaurant. They rarely sit with their back facing the main door. They prefer a corner seat, with their back against the wall and their eyes facing the entrance. Why? so they can see who is walking in and who is walking out. When they enter an unfamiliar room, their eyes unconsciously scan the space. Where is the emergency exit? What objects here could be used for self-defense? Who looks like the most dangerous person in the room? They are sensitive to sound. A door slamming, fast footsteps, or a suddenly raised voice can make their heart race and their body tense up. Many war veterans say that even after returning home and lying in their own comfortable bed, they still can't sleep peacefully. A small noise outside in the yard can make them jump awake. From the outside, people might say, "Why are you always so tense? Relax. You're safe now." But they don't understand. For someone who has been through too much, safety can feel like a luxury. Their brain has learned a hard lesson. Peace can be broken at any moment. Trauma researcher Judith Herman once explained that this constant watchfulness is actually a core defense mechanism. Their mind is simply doing its job, protecting them from any worst-case scenario that might happen again. When the nervous system is constantly on alert for danger, it inevitably affects how someone relates to other people. That brings us to sign number 4. They find it very hard to truly trust anyone. You might have been their friend for 10 years. You might even be their partner. They may treat you well and stay loyal to you. But somehow, you still feel like there's an invisible wall between you and the deepest part of their heart. They don't open up easily. They don't share their secrets or their weaknesses easily. Try putting yourself in their position. If, in the past, the people they trusted the most were also the ones who hurt them the most. If the times they opened their heart were the same times they were betrayed, abandoned, or taken advantage of, then it makes perfect sense that they would build strong walls around their heart. It's not arrogance. It's not that they're cold or emotionless. It's fear. They're afraid that if they lower their shield, history will repeat itself. They would rather keep their distance and be seen as hard to approach than allow someone in who might shatter their world again. For them, trust isn't a free gift. It's something extremely valuable that must be proven over time, through actions, and through many tests. But when you don't feel safe trusting anyone, you're forced to calculate every possible scenario on your own. That extreme caution often pushes them straight into sign number 5, overthinking. People who have gone through many hardships often become reluctant analysts of life. They analyze everything. They analyze the messages you send. Why didn't he use an emoji today? Is he upset with me? They analyze a meeting. Why did the boss look at me like that? Are layoffs coming? They prepare for every possible scenario. Scenario A, Scenario B, and even the worst-case Scenario Z. In the blockbuster movie Spider-Man No Way Home, there's a line from the character MJ that went viral and touched millions of people. She says, "If you expect disappointment, then you can never really be disappointed." When many people hear that line, they laugh at the dark humor behind it. But people who have been through too much don't laugh. They see themselves in it, because this is actually a psychological defense mechanism. If you always expect the worst to happen, then when it does happen, you won't be shocked. You won't collapse. You were already prepared. For them, overthinking is a way to control the chaos of life. They believe that if they think things through enough, nothing will catch them off guard. But of course, the price for this is mental exhaustion. And when someone becomes exhausted, what do they crave the most? That leads us to sign number 6. They crave stability more than anything else. After living in storms of chaos for too long, whether family storms, financial storms, or emotional storms, the thing an experienced person desires most is not adventure, not excitement. It's peace. It's the comfort of a quiet, even slightly boring life. They find deep safety in routines that repeat every day. They like waking up at the same time every morning. They like drinking the same type of coffee at the same familiar cafe. They like a job with a clear path, a tidy home, a life with structure. For someone young who hasn't faced much hardship yet, this repetition may feel like a prison. But for someone who has already walked through storms, that repetition feels like paradise. Stability and predictability act like an anchor for their boat, keeping them from drifting back into the open sea of chaos. They appreciate days when nothing happens, because they know something many others don't. A normal day is a lucky day. And to maintain that inner stability, they need their own space. Sign number 7, they really enjoy being alone. Don't confuse this with hating people or being depressed. That's not it. Think of it this way. If their brain were a phone, constantly staying alert, constantly empathizing, constantly analyzing other people would be like running too many heavy apps at the same time. Their battery drains very fast, and time alone is when they plug in the charger. Being alone helps them process the messy mix of emotions they've picked up throughout the day. That's when they're allowed to take off the strong mask. That's when they don't have to worry about anyone, don't have to read anyone, and don't have to please anyone. They can sit quietly for hours reading a book. They can walk alone in the park, or simply lie back and listen to music in a dark room. For people who have been through too much, being alone is not loneliness. It's freedom. It's the safest space for them to heal the wounds that no one else can see. From the habit of being alone and handling everything by themselves, they develop a very strong personality. That leads to sign number 8, extreme independence. You'll notice that these people rarely ask anyone for help. They move houses by themselves. They fix their own cars. They go to the doctor alone when they're sick. They deal with financial problems on their own. Even when you offer help and say, "Let me do it," their usual response will be, "It's okay, I can handle it." Why are they so stubborn? It's not because they don't need help. Deep down, everyone wants someone to lean on, but they've learned a bitter lesson. Depending on other people is a risk. In the past, maybe every time they asked someone for help, they were rejected, humiliated, or forced to pay a heavy price. They learned that the only person who would never abandon them, the only person they can fully control, is themselves. This independence is their proud armor. It helps them survive. But sometimes, it also becomes the prison that isolates them, making them carry the weight of the whole world on their shoulders without daring to set it down even for a minute. And that burden creates a quiet sadness. Sign number 9. They carry a very silent sadness inside them. On the outside, they seem like the most normal people. They still go to work, still laugh with coworkers, still travel, still post happy photos on social media. Their life looks perfectly fine, even enviable. But eyes don't lie. If you look deeply into their eyes when they're distracted, you won't see joy. You'll see a thin layer of fog, the tiredness of someone who has walked a very long road. A part of their soul has already seen the darkest, most naked sides of people and life. And the rule of awareness is very cruel. Once you've seen the truth, you can't pretend you didn't see it anymore. Think about Robin Williams, one of the greatest comedians in the world. He spent his life making millions of people laugh until they cried. He was a symbol of joy, energy, and optimism. But few people knew that behind the stage he was battling depression, and later it was discovered that he also suffered from a serious neurological disease called Lewy body dementia. Robin Williams' story is a painful but necessary reminder. The deepest sadness is often hidden behind the brightest smiles. People who have been through too much are like sad clowns. They know what pain tastes like, so they try to bring laughter to others, so no one else has to taste that bitterness the way they did. But the story doesn't end with sadness. If it stopped there, life would be terribly unfair. The final sign, they turn pain into wisdom. After all the breakdowns, the losses, the long sleepless nights, many of them do not collapse. They rise, and they don't just rise back to where they were. They rise even higher. In psychology, this phenomenon is called post-traumatic growth. Adversity does not kill them, it forges them. Human history is full of examples like this. Look at Abraham Lincoln. His life was a chain of tragedies. Losing his mother at a young age, losing the woman he loved, business failures, repeated election defeats, and severe depression. But those painful experiences forged a Lincoln who was compassionate, resilient, and deeply thoughtful. His understanding of human suffering helped him lead the United States through the brutal Civil War and end slavery. He became one of the greatest presidents in American history, and many historians believe that those painful experiences helped shape his depth and compassion. Or look at Steve Jobs. He was fired from Apple, the very company he co-founded, a public humiliation and an extremely painful moment. He once admitted it was the bitterest medicine of his life. But instead of letting that failure sink him, he used it as motivation to reinvent himself, create Pixar, and later return to Apple to change the entire technology world. He said that being fired was the best thing that ever happened to him because it gave him back the freedom of being a beginner. People who have been through too much possess a kind of wisdom that no school can teach. It is the wisdom of survival, the ability to see light even while standing in the darkest tunnel. Sometimes the deepest wounds can become the greatest source of strength. If you recognize these traits within yourself, or you see them quietly appearing in someone you know, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts or simply leave a message in the comments below. Every story you share is a small light that helps warm the hearts of others who are silently weathering their own storms, just like you. Thank you for taking the time to stay with me until this very moment. Your presence is the reason this content exists. I'm Apex. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so we won't miss any future journeys exploring the mind together. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you next time.